Tuesday announcements and the very first Halloween special. It's spooky season, y'all. According to our magical ball, I see some snakes in Susie's future. Ooh, someone will fail their pre-calc test.
So buckle in for a wild ride, kids. This episode is not for the faint of heart. Vampires hanging from the rafters, losing grip in all their laughter. While this show's not for the meek, it does lighten us up for the joke of the week.
Welcome back to this week's Joke of the Week. We have Haley. She's a junior here at New Tech. Are you ready for the joke?
Absolutely.
What is a skeleton's favorite food?
I have no idea.
Spare ribs.
So for this week on Senior Speaks, we have Malik. What do you want to say, Malik?
You cannot recycle pizza boxes. Stop doing it. That's all.
All right, I'm looking into your futures and I'm seeing I-STEP coming. So those of you who are juniors or seniors who didn't pass I-STEP, that's coming up this month. So this week, we're gonna actually start with a practice test in math. Next week, we'll have a practice test in English. Then the real deal is gonna come in the middle of November. So the 13th and 14th will be our math test. And then the 20th and 21st of November will be the English retest. So you should be getting some information from me this week that will tell you when and where you're gonna test, but that's really what's going on. So make sure that if that's you, that you're starting to study and get prepared for those retests. Have a great week.
Thank you, CSA, for your time and your atmosphere. Spooky season is on hand, and we here at your esteemed AV Club wanted to commemorate it with a scarier than normal segment.
If you're going trick-or-treating, make sure to keep your buddies close and your candy closer.
Plan out your routines to maximize your haul.
And don't leave your costume to the very last minute. You've still got 2 days to get on it. I see you in the back, rolling your eyes, time is candy, try to get a payload with your half-done costume and tell me I'm wrong.
Be safe out there, and if you're gonna TP any houses, make sure they have a bad security system. Thanks for watching, CSA, and we'll see you next week.
Spooky Crew signing off. Until next year.
So where I live in Brown County is next door to a mountain bike retreat. And as some of you know, a couple weeks ago, I found a gentleman in the woods who had been lost for 3 days, near death, but we saved him. Unfortunately, the first person that we found in the woods could not be saved. And today I'm going to tell you that story pretty quickly if I can. It was about 4 years ago, and mountain bikers check in. They sign a little piece of paper to get their map. They pay their $3, and then they can mountain bike on any of the 40 miles of trails in the woods. Well, the groundskeeper came over one day and said, "Hey, have you seen anybody go through lately?" And I had not. And he said, "Well, it's weird, you know, this girl has signed in and isn't signed back out, and there's a Subaru back by the lake." So I walked with him, and the girl's name was Kelly Gaynor, signed in but not signed out. And I recognized the name Kelly Gaynor because in my childhood neighborhood, there was a girl who I grew up with named Kelly Gaynor. And so I was thinking about her walking back to the lake with the groundskeeper. And as we were walking back to the lake, I said, you know, speaking of Kelly Gaynor, when I turned 13, I had a big party with all my friends from middle school, come spend the night. And we were up late. And in the middle of the night, a bunch of the guys were like, "Oh my gosh, Kelly lives in your neighborhood. Let's go see if she's up." And it's like 2 in the morning, like she's not going to be. Well, let's go throw rocks at her window anyway. I didn't want to, but it's my party and I want to be cool in front of my friends, so we did. But we didn't make it all the way because as we made it to her backyard and we're about to throw a rock up at her window, we hear a loud roar like, "Get!" and just scared us to death. And it was coming from the back shed area, it was not coming from the house. That I remember. And so we took off, and my friends we've laughed about that story and reflected on it since then. And so I was telling the groundskeeper that as we made it back to the vehicle. And the vehicle had a bike rack, but no bike on it, and was parked where someone would park just to go biking for the day, not in the campground area. So the next day, there's no one. The next day, there's no one. And so we finally call the police, and the police check the registration of the vehicle, and lo and behold, it is the Kelly Gaynor that I grew up with. And so we establish a search party. We go out into the woods, and we've searched, the police searched, no one. And then it was about a few days later, after the main search, the groundskeeper said, you know, I keep being awoken by something, like it's a full moon night, like let's just go back there, you know, one more time. And so for some unknown reason, at dark, we decide to go for a long walk looking for this girl, Kelly. And so I feel like we're just in a trance, like, because in retrospect, I would have never done this before, and I wouldn't have done it since. But we go, and we make it past the lake, and we're on the main trail. And like I said, it's moonlit, so I can see for really far. And we see movement on a couple ridges away. And then in the moonlight, little pieces of reflection, and I can tell it is someone on a mountain bike riding, and we can see the reflection of the pedals as this person's riding. But they're riding away from us. And so we walk further into the woods, down Homestead, towards what we call the chimney. And when we get to the chimney, we can no longer see this person. And so we kind of decide, the trail splits, so let's go this way. And we start heading a direction that kind of weaves us back towards the house. And from another hillside, I hear this roar, "Get!" and just am terrified. And it flashes me back to being 13 in my neighborhood again. And by that yell of "Get!" we, instead of curving back towards the house, go further into the trails, down a steep hillside, and I am just terrified running. The groundskeeper, I don't know if he's in front or behind me at this point, but I'm gone. I'm not worried about him. And as we come over a turn in this downhill trail, there's a log over the road. Or over the trail, and I trip and fall, and I tumble down and land, and when I land, I am face to face with the dead body of Kelly, and she is looking straight at me. Helmet on, but hit in the cheek, a big depression, eyes wide open and dead as a doornail. From there, we call 911, the police come, take her body away, do the cleanup, and you know, it's the story to tell all the time. And I still live there, and someone came ziplining once, and I'm a zipline guide too in the summer, so some of you may know. And as we're ziplining, this gentleman says, "Are you Joe Steele who helped find my sister?" And I'm like, "Oh," I'm like thinking a person, like, "No, I didn't find your sister. Was she lost earlier this week?" And he goes, "No, you know, I'm Josh Gaynor. Kelly was my little sister. You probably didn't know me because I graduated high school." And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, like, yes, I think I do remember who you are." And I'm like, "Yeah, actually, I was back there." And we talk about it, and he thanks me over and over. And as we're ziplining, I think I've got to tell him that like lighthearted story from high school or from middle school. And so I say, "Hey, actually, you know, in middle school, we were going to knock on your sister's window, but something roared, you know, from behind, like your shed." And I'm like, and I swear, when I was about to turn one direction in the woods, that same roar made me go a different direction. And he looked like he had seen a ghost and got teary-eyed. And he said, when we were 10, our dad passed away from cancer, and Kelly took it the absolute hardest. And he told her then, you know, "I will always protect you, whether I'm here on earth or elsewhere. And you are not the first one to say you've experienced the roar of my dad. And when you yelled 'Get!' that is my dad." And so from that moment, I think the dad, the ghost of Kelly's father, was protecting her from us boys knocking on her window that day. And I think the ghost of her father roared at me to turn direction to find his daughter that night dead in the woods. Thank you very much.